Hello and welcome to Warhammer Workshop. My name is Amy and I am here with JF and we are very excited, aren't we?
I I'm a little excited.
A teeny bit
Haha.
excited?
Yes, a squat amount of excitement.
Yes, everyone, at long last, the army that they said would never be is here. It's League of Votann Day.
Well, not today,
Well,
but soon.
you'll be able to pre-order today, and that's
Yes.
the important part. Um,
That's a very important part.
that's not all though.
If
All right.
to be fair, if you're listening to this instead of doing your pre-orders right now, I'm sorry, they ran out.
You could do both. Well, maybe they'll do the thing where it's if you order this weekend, you're guaranteed a copy. That's what they have been
Yeah,
doing.
that's they've been very good about that, and I think they've done a two like double windows. I think they
Yeah.
did that for Age of Darkness,
Yep.
where you had two windows, and
Yep.
they did a 2 week pre-order system. So who knows? I have a feeling Games Workshop is adamant in getting this in as many hands as
Mm-hmm.
possible,
I
if
agree.
only for the mathematics of it,
Yeah.
because this is an army that needs to catch up to all the other armies
Yes.
as far as saturation within the community. So there's a lot of legwork to be done, and
Mm-hmm.
these are short legs.
They are
So
short legs. All right, we're going to be mining the depths of the Leagues of Votann here in a second, but I don't want to gloss over some of the other releases we have this week, which are for Necromunda. And we have the Goliath Maulers. These are super cool bikes. And they, as you've said, in a world where every kit is an orc kit, this is like a particularly orc kit. So
this is
even if you are not a Necromunda player,
yeah, because this isn't like these aren't Delake models riding those bikes. These are Goliaths,
no,
and Goliaths have very orky musculature, shall we
yeah,
say?
yeah,
So they really are just a head swap and a paint job away from being orc bikes,
they
and they will
are,
be in
yeah,
my army. They will be.
excellent.
The only problem that we've discovered, you and I, last week, as we were talking about the models that you're painting, is
Mhm.
that this is a kit of two bikes,
Two.
whereas the normal Orc War Biker kit has three bikes. And if you're playing with power levels, the increments are of by three models, which would be a problem for any other army but the Orcs. I will kit bash something.
Yeah. Depending how you build your wheels, you can get some extra bits on these
Hmm.
sprues. So I also like as compared to the Orlock bikes, which I also built. These were a lot easier to build than those Orlock bikes, but they have they have a little bit less going on. They have a little fewer Greeblies and Gubbins to deal with, which
The
is fine. They're
Goliaths are not ones for subtleties and
no,
fragile little trinkets
no,
on their
they're not.
bikes, I think.
They do have chain mohawks though, so that's a plus.
Yes.
Big fan.
The
Um,
Goliath champion model that Games Workshop sent me has a chain mohawk,
mhm.
and it looks. No, it doesn't have the chain mohawk. I apologize. I wish it did, though.
Well, good
This
news.
shows you how far I am in painting it.
Yeah, good news. If you get these Goliath Maulers, there's plenty of extras because you have an option of two different ones.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so that, and we get the vehicle cards. And so now you can bring your Goliaths out onto the ash wastes with everybody else and have a good time. But let's face it, that's not what you're here for today.
I mean, every time I picture how I'm going to be painting red plaid onto those vehicles, I get a little excited.
Yeah.
But no, I think like this is we've just discussed the technical Oscars for lighting and set design,
Yes.
and about to have a conversation about best actor and best director. So let's
Mm-hmm.
have at it.
All right. So I'm gonna let you drive this bus a little bit because you are so much deeper into this than I
So much
am.
deeper.
Um,
If you look on the channel, on our YouTube channel today, you'll notice that I do have some League of Votann content.
yep.
Hopefully, I have what I plan to have ready and out at the proper time.
Yeah.
But let's just say that ever since Games Workshop was extremely generous
So
and sent
generous.
both of us each an army set way ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
so that we could play around, read the codex, get familiarized with the models. And I am pleased yet angry to say that these are very nice kits, incredible kits in certain ways. They assemble nicely. They are extremely detailed, which I think has backfired in a way. I think I've talked about this in other mediums. Is a lot of people had a core reaction when seeing the first League of Votann infantry, saying these are just Space Marines. They look Space Marine sized, and I assure you, they're not.
They're so not. They are very much not.
These are tiny guys. They're very small, and the reason why they look big is because Games Workshop has just been getting better and better at getting more detail out of the 3D
Yeah.
sculpting and the advanced like plastic molding technology that they're using. So these are extremely high quality models that look very detailed and look bigger than they are because of those details.
Yeah.
But they are
That
tiny.
they are, and we like to joke about tactical rocks, right? And I mean, it is funny a lot of the time. They have done brilliant things with tactical rocks in this army for any of the like important characters. Because your like general legions are just like on the ground and they are very short. But like if you're having a big battle, you want to look nice on the table, you know. I love a good battlefield photography session
Hmm.
during a game. And so you want them to like look impressive.
Oh, at a tournament, I'm the jerk that will say, no, no,
No,
no, no, no.
no, 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 no.
I need to take some pictures now
Mm-hmm.
that we've done deployment.
Yes.
And so far, the eye rolling has been to a minimum.
Good. Um, so yeah, so the two bigger characters that come in this particular box, as well as the Psyker that we have seen previews of at Nova. Excellent use of tactical rocks. Big fan.
Also, excellent use of tactical rocks is for the Ernkin bikers.
Yes.
They use tactical rocks to simulate the levitation on the bikes, and it does a far better job than you would think because of how the levitation wheels, the maglev or whatever, are angled, and where the connection point with the tactical rock is located.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything that makes it, that connects it to the base, is towards the middle of the model where you can't really see it very well.
Yeah,
So the illusion is very convincing.
they're
It's
very cool.
the kits are gorgeous. They have a lot of options as far as pieces. Like every model, obviously you can build in a standard way, especially for the warriors. And then you, at the end, you get dozens of little gubbins that you can stick, like
Yeah,
pickaxes and these little folding shovels, so that you can really give them a little bit more character. And you get a ton of heads.
so
The
many.
only so many, like you get, I think you get something like about 20 heads, or maybe a little less than 20 heads per kit. Oh no, you get more than 20 heads
Yeah,
because
because you can definitely build them all helmeted, I think.
you can build them all helmeted. You can build them all unhelmeted. They can be all helmeted dudes. You can almost do all unhelmeted female.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, and this is the only thing that I think there's going to be a market for that,
Yeah.
is that for every 10 Hearthkin warrior, you you only get one Ironkin head.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until I was like, I've put together one squad so far, and it was only like when I got towards the end, and I was, you know, because I wasn't really paying attention to the instructions for the heads. I was just looking on sprues and picking out cool ones, and then I realized, I was like, oh, there it is. Yeah. So yeah, there's only one.
So you get one in per warrior, per 10 warrior, and you get one per 3 bikes.
Yeah.
So it feels, that's the thing, like they've done this in a way that reflects probably how much you would see Ironkin
Right.
in normal League of Votann society.
Right. You're not gonna have an entire army of them.
But I've
about.
already seen at least 2 tweets by people are saying, yeah, League of Votann, I'm going to try to make an all Ironkin army. It's like, cool. You will have
Yeah, you're
difficulty
gonna
getting
need.
all those heads.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too hard to sculpt though.
No, no. I mean, they're little domes. Anybody like even if you don't sculpt them, you can probably just cast them out of green stuff very easily,
Yeah.
or out of resins. You can probably make a green stuff mold for them. There's a lot of options, and the way that they fit onto the bodies of the League of Votann models is first of all fairly versatile and not very complicated. So I'm not worried. Someone who wants this to happen will make it happen.
Yeah, totally.
The other slight, like one of the things as I was building them that I got suspicious of is you'll notice that they all build kind of the same way. You have a back portion to the torso and then a front portion to the torso. And some of the back portion have one leg and then you need to stick the other one. I think there's one model per 10 that you need to stick both legs.
Yeah.
But basically, like I suspected that that the front torsos were interchangeable, and they are not. So you still have to be careful what you stick where, because otherwise you'll run into issues.
Yeah, I had that problem back when I built my Harlequins. They are not all interchangeable, and that is a problem.
No.
I was at one point as I'm going through, I was like, why aren't these going in order, right? Because it'll be like 85 and 86, and then it's 32 and 33, and I was like, this is irritating. Until I took a break overnight, and I came back to a torso that I had partially put together, and I was like, I remember it's 50 something, and I've got the page open, and I was like, I know which one it is. And so I was no longer upset that they're not in order.
No, and it's funny because the numbers are not necessarily in order, but the way the sprues are built, each model is clustered. So you'll always find you'll find front torso and back torso right next to each other, and then the leg you need is right there. The couple of arms you need are somewhere else. The heads are all over the place, but that doesn't matter because they're all interchangeable.
Yeah.
So it becomes very easy. Like you don't need to be looking too long to find the pieces you want. And I found the building of I've built 20 warriors, the 2 HQs, the 3 bikes. I've built those over maybe the 8 hours or so, plus the bases that I did. So fairly quickly for a job that I tried to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And a very pleasant experience all around. I don't remember being frustrated at any point during the process. Like everything fits nicely. Nothing's a nightmare to put together, which it was a relief.
So here's my dumb pitfall that I fell into that I'm going to talk about so that nobody else falls into it, or at least that I didn't figure out. So I didn't look at the sprue layout that's on that first page of the instructions. So what it is the 10 Hearthkin warriors it's a set of 3 sprues that are connected, but only 2 fit in the box. So they snap off the third one. And of the 2 frames, a different end was snapped off on each of them. And so I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on and which sprue was which. And I eventually figured it out far later than I would have liked.
I've run into that problem on a previous builds for something. So I know what you're talking about. I didn't face it with the League of Votann.
Yeah, so it's like an A, B, and C, and on one A was snapped off, and on the other C was snapped off, and I did not figure that out for the longest time. And so I did a lot more searching through sprues than I really needed to do.
So here's a question, completely irrelevant in general, but were these sprues identified as A, B, and C? Because
they have been in other kits.
I've seen them, but not on this one.
They might be in the instructions in that part that I didn't look at.
Maybe it's in the instructions, because I always skip that page.
Yeah.
The only times I go to that page is to see the size of bases.
Yeah.
Because sometimes someone will ask me, "Hey, what size is?" I don't know, 28 millimeters. Which, by the way, 28 millimeters is the size of the base for the your standard Hearthkin warrior.
Yep. 40 for the 2 hero characters.
Yeah, and bike for the other ones.
Yeah.
The box set itself is a very nice box, obviously very high quality printing and production for something that's going to end up in the recycling bin very quickly.
Yep.
The codex itself is pretty. It comes with some cards. It comes with it does come with 2 sheets of transfer, right? I
Yeah.
didn't just luck
Okay, I
out and
was
they
going to
gave me
ask
2.
you that also. Yeah, it comes with 2 sheets of transfers.
Because the box says 1, like, but it doesn't say 1, but it says transfer
Transfer
sheet
sheet.
singular, and I got 2. It's like, did I luck out? It's like,
Did
no,
I
okay, fine.
win? No,
Yeah,
I
did
also
I
got
win
2.
some lottery?
I meant to ask you and I never got around to it. Yeah, no, so
Yeah,
apparently
no,
it's 2.
yeah,
Adam
but which makes
Adam
sense
did
because you
say
need
Adam did say
if
a
you
lot of transfers.
it is a lot of transfers.
Yeah.
I've put transfers on my set, and it came to about maybe a total of 40 transfers that I had to use
Yeah.
to get the coverage I wanted. And you also get some tokens,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Have you taken a chance to look at the rules at all?
I've glanced. I haven't been through as thoroughly as I would like.
So I devoured most of the book in a
Yeah.
way because we've talked about this in the previous episode how you and I consume most of our lore not through Black Library novels, but mostly through codexes.
Yeah.
And this is for the very first time in a long time where I get absolutely fresh virgin snow
Yes.
lore. Like this is new stuff. This
Yeah.
isn't just, oh, I'm reading the Tyranid Codex fluff to see what they've added or
Right.
changed or retconned. This is absolutely everything about it is new. Like the sub factions are new. Everything is just, it's all interesting.
Yeah.
So I devoured it in a way I haven't devoured a codex in a long time. And the tokens are their own thing. They're very interesting. But let's talk about the lore. Did you get any of the lore in general for the from the articles or anything?
I mean, we've talked about how much I'm into a model with a buddy, and this is like a whole army that is like based around having buddies of various kinds, and that is
Yes.
fantastic.
The presence of the robots and the androids like the Ironkin and the Corvs and the
Mhm.
Cogs and all that is super interesting. One of the things that's also very interesting is that this is an entire race of clones.
Yeah.
Um, it's fun, and another thing that's cool about League of Votann is yes, they're bringing back the squats in a way, and but they're also explaining why they were gone and why they came back, and why they're gone is steeped in ambiguity
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that they say yeah they left Earth probably a very long time ago apparently,
Yeah.
and they went to the galactic core where no one goes because it's super hostile, and but they're tough, so I mean they managed,
Yeah.
and they took with them a lot of dark age of technology stuff
Mm-hmm.
with them, and then so those Votann, those supercomputers. And it's interesting because they talk about, yeah, they've got all these really old Votans that they took with them, but they also have these what they call Fanes, I believe, which are other artificial intelligence that eventually sometimes kind of go through their own singularity and become Votans.
Yeah.
So you've got some old ones, you got some new ones, and the idea is that like yeah they left for the galactic core, some remained and they became what we know of as the squats. Some of them came back to came out of the galactic core to do some trading, and that's how we know that the Tau ended up with what they call demiurgs, and that's how they got their ion technology. So they managed to create this scenario where the League of Votann were somewhere for some amount of time, thousands of years, apparently.
Yeah.
And the reason why they're coming back is because the whole Cicatrix Malefactum, like the rift, opened up, and now they have to deal with that a lot more
Yeah.
because that seeps into the galactic core. There's a very specific, I can't remember the name top of my head, but there's a specific warp rift near their territory. So like, fine, we'll go back and we'll do things. So their return makes sense. And I think this is kind of the payoff of the whole 13th Black Crusade, the fall of Cadia, and the Cicatrix Malefactum existing. This is the payoff of all of this, because then they can use that as an excuse for why races that we've never heard of them in 10,000 years. Why now? Well, because this is a major
Yeah.
galactic event.
It's become an us problem.
Yes. and it's very interesting the way they've done that. Another thing that's interesting is that there's only 5 subfactions instead of your
Mm,
typical 6, and we've only seen that in the Chaos Demons Codex recently.
which happens to have been the one that came out right before this.
Yes, but Chaos Demons had more of a more of an excuse, like more of an
Yeah.
in-world excuse that you've got like your 4 gods, and then you've got Undivided, and like
Mm,
what else are you gonna do, right?
right.
Meanwhile, Leagues of Votann, like they could have easily, and they do name other subfactions that aren't specified as having their own rules.
Right.
And my theory is that they said, all right, we're gonna do 5, so we have an empty slot.
Mm-hmm.
So that when we come back to this with more models, because one thing they will not shut up about in the fluff is how the Leagues of Votann have these incredible battle changing gunships.
Yeah.
Like the League of Votann showed up and they had their land fortresses and these amazing gunships. And the gunships arrived, and it's all about like they keep talking. It's like, but there's no gunships. There's nothing in the list about
Yeah.
gunships. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they go, yeah, okay, well, here's a
Yeah,
gunship
here's gunship.
and some other things. Like we haven't seen the last of them, and I think they just Games Workshop's learned a lot about giving themselves breathing room to add things.
Yeah,
So
so
that's my
well,
theory.
one of the problems that they've had, this is something that Jez Goodwin used to talk about a lot on the Warhammer Community Podcast, um, is that they had to treat every release as what if this is the only time you get to do this? This was specifically he talked about this on like the AdMech episodes. And it was like, what do you have if, what do you do if you only get one shot at this? And then it's like when you do get to loop back around and it's okay, what if this is the last time? But also you do have to like hold some stuff back because like this stuff has staying power now. I feel like it's not the same as it was 15, 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this isn't going anywhere. And so you do have to kind of give yourself room to grow, which is another big thing with why lore winds up being so ambiguous sometimes because you can't write yourself into a corner that you can't get out of. Um,
Yeah, and you have to be careful because the Warhammer 40K lore is basically a long chain of retcons.
yeah.
But there are certain key things that you just don't want to go back to retcon, or if you do, you have to do it in a certain clever way. But retconning is always hard. It's always difficult to do because you need, especially as the lore gets more and more complicated,
Mm.
you can retcon some things about technology and how certain things are done, certain cultural things. But you can't, like, Games Workshop can't come out in 2 years and say, the Horus Heresy never happened.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to just leave a hole and eventually fill that up. Like when they talk about the Eastern Fringe and like, yeah, the Eastern Fringe is the galaxy. We barely explore that. Who knows? Maybe there's cat people. Games Workshop, please make some cat people.
Cat people.
Cat people would be great. But or just saying like, yeah, Exosites. They're on
Mhm.
on a world, I guess.
Yeah. We
Anyways,
made a
bye.
cartoon.
So
We gave it a
yeah.
title. Yeah.
So
I mean, they also have, I'm sure we could do an entire episode about this and maybe someday we will, but they also have this sort of magical bubble for retconning wherein that basically all of the information that we as like real life human people have is presented to us through the mirror, like through the lens of the Imperium. And so it's all kind of tainted ish.
or occasionally it's viewed through the lens of whatever codex you're reading.
Yeah.
Like the League of Votann seems to be written a lot from the point of view of the leagues themselves, from
Sure.
the what they call the kin. And it's very one of the things that I do like. There's this kind of fun dichotomy because they're very pro science. They're very like they don't like there's a lot of the they don't believe in the mumbo jumbo of the of say the Omnissiah or the God
Right.
Emperor or stuff like that. Like they're very no. We're we don't believe in that. But also we are fighting demons,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
And this
great.
is my brother
It's
Paul, and he is a robot.
Yes,
Um,
it's super great to see that they're bringing us the other side of they are denying certain evidence that's right in
Mm-hmm.
front of them.
Mm-hmm.
But and they also do treat their computers like gods.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not like the Omnissiah. I mean, almost, but not the same. It's different.
You and I have talked over the years on various podcasts that we've talked about, feeding your Roomba some Cheerios as a treat because that's
Yes,
what it likes. Um,
exactly. Like
yeah.
the Roomba's not gonna revolt because it's eating dirt because it thinks dirt is delicious
Yeah.
because it was programmed that way. Cleaning your puke when you come back from a bender is a treat. Um.
uh,
So yeah. So the fluff is like I make it sound like it's super vague, but it's not. Like they really do go into some crunchy details about their society and how they interact. Because this is all new, like you get to learn how each kin sort of lives in the society, and also the difference in importance that they have depending on which league they're part of.
right.
The Ernkin Outriders, like the bike guys, they're a lot like you'd expect, like you see in say the Eldery Codex or Eldar Codexes. Like it's not just a fast attack choice. Like there's a culture behind that,
Right.
which makes it interesting. So I was very impressed by the lore. A little too impressed, like made me want to play them a little bit. But then you get to the rules, which are a lot of fun, and almost struck me as like, oh, this looks a little bit on the broken side, yo.
Yeah. I mean, every army looks a little broken until you actually put it on the table, though. Like this comes
Yeah,
up
no,
every time,
absolutely.
right? As somebody's like, "Oh, it's too overpowered," and we're not saying that there's not like power creep as we go. There's cool factor creep, I think, more
There
than
is,
anything. Is they're like
and
they see it feels like every codex they see what they can get away with, and so the
mm.
next one they push it a little further.
So the I'm gonna go over like some of the key things I found was really cool. One of the things that's interesting is that everything is movement 5, and but they can't really advance normally.
Mm.
The when you do an advance roll, well, you don't roll, it's just 3 inches. So the
They've
best
got
you can
short legs.
hope
We did
for,
discuss this.
yeah, very short legs. So the fact that they're not very quick is part of their mechanics, which is great.
Yep.
And this is why they have these hunter weapons that are just not affected by anything. Like they
Yeah.
will always fire at whatever rate they are, whether you advance, whatever you do, that's how they shoot.
Nice.
They have void shields. Like everything has these void armor. I'm sorry, not void shields. Void armor, which basically reduces. I believe it reduces the armor penetration rate when they get shot at. So that's cool. Um, well, they have that's really cool. They have two different new other types of weapon. They have beam weapons
Mm-hmm.
that essentially, if you shoot at the unit behind another unit, it's going to hit all the units in
Yeah.
between. So that's always fun. And they have a that's their Magna Rail weapon, I believe. That
Yep.
no, the beam weapon. The Magna Rail weapon, when you shoot at a unit, it ignores invulnerable saves. Which you remember we've seen this in Tau. The
Yep.
Tau have that. But also any damage that weapon does, like you have like obviously it causes a certain amount of wounds, and each wound causes damage. But every time the damage exceeds how many wounds a model has, like any excess damage is lost. Not with the Magna Rail weapon. That basically the way I see it, it implies that if you shoot that at a unit, it'll hit like a couple of people on the
Right.
way. So it doesn't like at first glance that looked, oh my god, this is so broken, but it's not like these weapons have enough of a high damage that you shoot once and it's going to wipe out an entire unit. It's just
Right.
you get those extra wounds, which is neat. Like it is like it's extra punch.
Yeah. I mean, it's
And
sort of in the way that blast weapons revolutionized how you fight against large groups of models. It's
yes,
like a
exactly.
similar idea.
It adds a little bit of punch, has a little bit of crunch, but it's not that's not game breaking.
Yeah.
I don't in hindsight, I don't think there's anything that's really super game breaking about them. They look
Good.
strong because some of the customs, which are like their rules for each of the sub factions. Some of them are neat, shall we say.
Sure.
So the USR, I believe, is a subfaction that basically gives +1 toughness across the board to your army,
Nice.
which is cool when you all right. So my toughness 4 things are toughness 5. It's neat. Oh, those bikes are a little tougher. But then your Hecaton Fortress is toughness 9,
Yeah.
and it's got void armor
Mm,
and it's normal save.
mm,
It becomes a lot.
yeah.
So yeah, and you've got a couple of things like that. And one of the other things that's interesting is amongst you've got two. There's only one troop choice for the army,
Right.
and that's the Hearthkin Warrior. And you can't kit them out with range or melee. Like there's range and other range.
Yeah.
So they don't seem great in close combat, although there's certain customs you can take that will make them I believe. But what's interesting is that that's one of 2 units that have objective secure.
Mm.
The other unit are the bikes, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
But what's even better is the Thorian League has one of their rules is that every model counts as 2 models for objective for controlling objectives. So you could have a very thick objective secure unit of bikes just going from objective to objective, taking control of them while the rest of your army does things.
Yeah.
And they'll be very well equipped to do it because they count as a bunch of models compared to what they would normally. So they've got these little twists and turns here and there that are a lot of fun. Crusade rules are also interesting because there's a grudge system. If you're a dwarf player, you're probably rejoicing at that news. And it's not a very this is the kind of system that's really built for long crusades.
Right.
Because every time one of your units is blooded, I think is the expression. Whenever one of your units is wounded permanently, so to speak, it basically gets a grudge against specifically the faction that wounded it. And when you fight it later, you can use that grudge to get benefits against them.
So good.
So first of all, you need to get the wound. Second of all, you need to fight that type of army, that faction again to really capitalize on it. So
I love it.
And then they have this whole research thing where you get to, at the end of every game, you get some I think it's not requisition, not acquisition points, basically in various types of sciences, and then you can buy some bonuses with those points. But the real bonuses are when you get the rare version of that resource, then you can capitalize on it. So it's very it touches on both aspects of the army, both of them being scientifically advanced and also being essentially space dwarves.
Love it. So good. I guarantee
it is.
I guarantee this is not the last time we'll be discussing the League of Votann.
Well, the thing is, I don't think it's the last. I don't think we're done hearing about the League of Votann from Games Workshop for a little while. We do know from the roadmap from the Nova Open that we are going to be seeing the Astra Militarum next. And we do know that they're getting some new models too.
Yep.
And probably some expanded fluff and some other goodies. And after that, the only thing we'll have left is the World Eaters.
And those new Corn Berserkers.
Which are not the only thing we're going to see. In the past week, Games Workshop has teased that they will be doing other things for the World Eaters. If we compare the World Eaters to some of the other factions that we've seen from the Chaos Space Marines, all of these other factions have entire ranges of models that are their own.
Yeah.
And I don't see why the World Eaters would be any different. So I'm super excited to see what that means.
Whew. Are you hyped? I feel like we're hyped. This is very good.
I'm in a very specific place with hype in the sense, I'm privileged to be able to be painting an army set of the League of Votann, but I'm also privileged in a way that I'm not committed to the League of Votann. I'm painting these because I'm passionate about them. Games Workshop sent me the advanced model. I like trying this new army, playing around with these new models. But once that's done, I can put them aside. I can give them to someone. I can like I'm not married to that army, and I can go back to something, which feels it feels like a very high school level of dating those models, if you will. Like I am we're going out to dinner and we're going to the movies, but we're not getting married, you know?
Army speed dating. This is where
It's
we're at.
it's not army speed dating. That's more like picking up a model to paint and then
That's
just
fair.
put in
You're right.
like on a shelf somewhere. This is I mean, we've gone steady, but we're not engaged.
Perfect.
And yeah, I just said I was going steady with 25 dwarves.
Space dwarves.
Eat your heart out, Snow White.
On that note, I think we better end this episode before it goes any further off the rails.
Fair.
Thank you all for joining us again this week. Thank you to Games Workshop for all of our goodies and for letting us talk about all this stuff with you guys. And we will be back next week with more exciting new Warhammer. Wow. That was the worst ending ever. Let me try that again.
Yeah, edit that out.
I'll super edit that out. I won't. We'll be back next week with even more Warhammer content. Thanks for watching.